On this week's episode of the cast, we are going to be talking Alien Day, having a nice little trivia game with that because it is Alien Day 4/26 for the 40th anniversary of Alien. Along with that, we are going to be discussing the new words that are making their way into Merriam-Webster's dictionary, Bond 25 details, along with Clockwork Orange getting a potential novel sequel because stuff was found. Thank you for joining in on the cast. If you guys are listening to this, make sure to subscribe, drop a review, comment wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching. Thank you so much for coming in and joining the cast with us. Hello to all the Geek Enthusiasts and Nerd Aficionados. This is Mess 5150 back with another All Things Nerd podcast. This is Season 3, Episode 17. We are one episode away from 100 episodes. That's right. It only takes 3 years for a podcast to hit 100 episodes if they're not doing it every single week, which we don't, but we try. So, oh, good Lord, what is the heck?
I know, right? I am loving that right now. Masonic Vader, is that a Captain Marvel helmet with the mohawk and everything? That's incredible.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm excited.
Are listening to this on Stitcher or iTunes or Spotify, you do not get the full experience of the visual aspect of this podcast. Right now, Masonic Vader has come in a week early because we're not going to be doing any spoilers or talking any spoilers. And this isn't a spoiler thing because this is from an old thing, but he's wearing his Marvel gear for this cast. But you have me, Mess 5150, also on the cast so you can see his wonderful, majestic Captain Marvel. We have Captain Masonic Vader on the cast. How is it? How you doing, sir?
I am still mind blown from my 6 a.m. movie visit this morning to see Endgame. Yes, I woke up at 5:25 this morning to get up and go to the movie theater and go see probably one of the greatest movies, probably in the top 20. They did a phenomenal job. No spoilers here. We'll talk about it.
No spoilers this week. Absolutely none. Also joining us on the cast, we have Icy Zorro. How are you, sir?
Fantastic. I actually just got back from seeing that movie about 45 minutes ago. It's Endgame Day. I've been waiting for this for so long. So happy. And it was satisfying. That's all I'm going to say.
And we have Aaron back with us on the cast. How goes it, sir?
Fantastic. The odd one out. I haven't seen Endgame yet. So 13 hours to go.
Well, you would have been the odd one out, but Super Hoovian Freak joins us in the cast, and she has also not seen it. So how are you, Super?
It's a sibling thing. Apparently, one cannot see it before the other.
You're like the twins in G.I. Joe. If one of you gets to
exactly,
pretty much.
Yeah, I don't need to go see it. I can just transfer it through Aaron's brain, and I will know instantly what happens. I wish that would save me so much money.
No spoiler.
It appears the Masonic Vader is going to be switching to different things. He's now Captain America, and that makes your head look relatively the right size with how large that.
There is a lot of brain matter in this helmet right now, let me tell you.
Now let's see that ass.
It is definitely not a superhero ass, I will tell you that.
Yeah, no. Okay. So how we usually start this cast out, we like to talk about what we've been geeking out on, but we realized, as we just said, for most people, it's Endgame Day, and for probably most of the next 4 or 5 days is going to be Endgame Day, where people are going to be going to go see Endgame. So it doesn't really matter what we're geeking out on. There's no like, hey, you guys should check this stuff out because you're not going to care. It's going to go out one ear and out the other. So
was that this week?
What?
The movie came out this week?
What are the Avengers?
I think they're called the Revengers.
Yes, the Revengers. The Revengers is what we were
Isn't that about. Valkyrie? And,
yeah.
And Batman, I think, right?
Yeah, well, the craziest part of the whole movie is when Dumbledore killed Batman. That was bizarre.
Yeah, exactly.
Harry Potter was having some drinks somewhere.
Definitely the most ambitious crossover ever.
Mm-hmm.
We've lost the reins. But hey, guys, today it's Alien Day. Alien is 40 years old this year, and on April 26th every year, it has now been coined as Alien Day because of the original planet that Alien took place on, LV-426. So we thought instead of doing a geek out, we'd have a little bit of fun for those that like to listen in on trivia and see how well they do compared to the people that are here on the cast, which generally the people in the chat room are much better at this. But I went out and I found trivia for the Alien movie, and we're going to quiz everybody and see how well you know the Alien film.
This might be the first.
Not well.
I ain't gonna lie. I thought when you were saying Alien Days, you're gonna have that dude on from History Channel with the weird hair or something like that.
Aliens.
No. We're talking xenomorphs and facehuggers, as you can see behind me. My life-size facehugger replica.
This might be the first trivia game that I'm just terrible at. I haven't seen this.
Yeah, I'm gonna be bad. Yeah.
In the chat room, Jack says we all suck at playing trivia games, which is. I'm always just reading the questions, so that's how I skirt this. And Bearded Master says this should go well for him.
You know what? Give me a chance, man. I have not yet been tested.
I'm going to go from on my screen from left to right. We'll start with Aaron first. Aaron. Ellen Ripley is the main protagonist of Alien and its sequels, but can you name her duty station aboard the Nostromo?
She was flight officer. She was a warrant officer.
There you go.
Yeah, I can already tell I'm going to get most of these wrong.
Moving on to IC
Yeah, well, you can hear me typing, so you know I ain't Googling.
Moving on to IC Zoro, which character said, "I don't trust anybody"?
The doctor, the android.
No. Anybody have a guess, or we're just gonna?
What was the quote?
I don't trust anybody.
Bill Paxton's character.
You're talking aliens, man. This is Alien.
Ooh, was it John Hurt?
No,
John Hurt died too quick.
Yeah, he didn't trust anybody because his stomach felt really weird.
I forgot what the guy's name was. It was the only black character on there. I'm pretty sure that was him.
Nope, you're all wrong. It was Dallas. It was the captain.
Oh, it was Dallas?
Okay.
Oh, all right.
I can't actually picture the original chest burster scene anymore. I can only see the version from Spaceballs in the diner.
Well, it was
I
pretty
thought
much
it might have
identical.
been Bishop.
Okay. Moving on to Masonic Vader. Your question is, what was given the set pieces and equipment used in the production of... Who was given the set pieces and equipment used in the production of Alien? You're not going to get it.
Who was given it?
You won't get
Tony Stark.
I'm
I'm Iron Man.
It was Bob Burns who was a consultant for the series as well. This is
I was going to guess that next, dude. Come on.
How would anyone know that?
Super.
Yes.
Before the movie went into production, what was the proposed title of the film?
Space Trucker.
No, I'm going to go with, I don't know, Interspecies or something like that.
Facehugger.
Anybody else have guesses besides Masonic Vader with face huggers?
I don't know. I wasn't around in 1979. I got no idea.
The sad thing is, I think I'm the only one that was. All right, yeah.
I was -2.
It was Star Beast, and thank God it wasn't called Star Beast. Yeah.
I feel like that changes. Even if it was shot for shot the same, that different title would change the entire tone of the movie.
Oh God. Yeah, I don't think we'd be celebrating
like
this.
Martian.
Years later.
What's another word for alien? What's the synonym for alien?
Star Beast.
Man.
Back to Aaron. Which character said, "I can finish my coffee. It's the only good thing on this ship"?
That actually might be the guy that I was talking about earlier, but I can't remember his name, unfortunately.
Well,
Nick Fury.
It was the cat.
It was Parker, so he was the engineer. It was the
Okay.
Parker. There we go.
guy that owned the cat.
First,
I thought you were going to say the obvious question is that cat actually a flirkin?
No, because then it would have saved his friggin' owner.
Right?
Yeah, Jonesy would have saved everybody.
Now I want to see a flirkin versus a
But
Z.
here's the thing: you guys don't need to know all this. The fun part about this is watching how bad you fail at it, and all the Alien fans that do know all this stuff screaming at us as they're listening. Like,
There are some people in their cars right now that are very angry.
Oh, dude.
I would like to, if I'd like to direct all the positive comments to myself and everything else negative. So pretty much all comments to Mess. Yeah, just go ahead and email Mess, and he'll take care of everything for you.
okay, I see. Rather than a derelict ship, the original script called for what to house the alien eggs?
T100.
Giant picnic basket.
I mean, if you took a proper guess at this, you'd probably get it right.
Rather than a derelict ship, I'm going to say a small moon.
No. Anybody else have a guess?
What was
The
the
Batcave.
question?
Rather than a derelict ship, the original script called for what to house the alien eggs? So instead of finding them on a derelict ship, what did they find them in?
A comet or meteor,
The Predator ship.
a space shuttle.
It was a pyramid.
I'm still going with
A
the Batcave.
pyramid? I was going to say like a cave, like a.
Like I said, if you took a proper good guess at this, you probably would have gotten a pyramid.
Well, the pyramid was from Aliens versus Predator, wasn't it? Did they just decide like, hey, let's go back and revisit that idea?
Or the History Channel with that
Yeah.
crazy hair guy again.
All right, Masonic Vader.
Yeah.
I
Masonic
ran out of
Vader.
masks.
Masonic Vader. Prior to directing Alien, Ridley Scott was pondering doing a movie version of Tristan and Isolde. However, that was soon forgotten when he saw which science fiction film?
What the hell? Star Wars.
You are right.
Oh, he's in the lead.
Nice.
He's in the lead. Oh my
No,
god.
you're actually tied.
the softball pitch. I actually hit it. I didn't have enough beer yet. All right, let me get some more of that.
Super. The ship
Mhm.
carried a pair of engineers who provided a bit of light humor in the first act of Alien. Can you name the duo? I'm sure your answer is going to be no.
Okay, so you want me to name the funny people?
The two engineers, yeah,
The two engineers.
which
Oh,
was the
God.
African American and the other character played by Harry Dean Stanton.
Scotty.
So it was Yafet
I
Koto.
want to say it was. I know one of them started with a B.
That's the one
so
we
was
haven't
it-
said the name of. The other one we've
was
said
it-
the name.
Okay, so was it Billy and Dallas?
No, it's Parker and Brett.
Brett. Okay, Brett. All right.
The inspiration for the alien creature came. Oh, this is for Aaron.
All right.
The inspiration for the alien creature came from which famous book featuring the works of H.R. Geiger?
I don't know. It had to do with Lovecraftian themes. I don't remember what the name of it
Yeah.
was.
Oh my God! Seriously, you're gonna kick yourself.
Probably.
It's called the Necronomicon.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
like I said. It's yeah.
That's actually what I was thinking. I just didn't think it was right.
It's very Lovecraftian.
I see Zorro. Dan O'Bannon had a huge problem with his script that he wrote himself into. He needed a reason for the crew not to just shoot the alien and didn't want to go into the worn out bullets won't stop it thing other writers were doing. What reason did Ron Cobb suggest that he use?
Acid blood?
That's it. Yeah. That had
Nice.
acid blood that ate through the hole.
Which, as Jack has pointed out before, baking soda? Just to deal with.
Yeah, Jack says bullets in a spaceship bad.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
All right, for Masonic Vader.
Oh boy.
In Dan O'Bannon's first draft, how many of the film's human characters were male? None of the 7, 4 of the 7, 6 of the 7, or all of the 7?
4 of the 7.
It was all of the 7.
All of
Yep.
7. That sexist guy.
Which, think about the dynamic, how much it would change that whole entire story.
Yep.
It's good the way that they went with it.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
and the sequels.
absolutely. Because she was such a badass character to begin with. I do think people think that's the first time that you had such a strong female lead in an action film and all that fun stuff. It did
Wait.
change the course of movie history.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, wait, what-
Ripley definitely, absolutely changed the course of the strong leads that we got in terms of storytelling.
I'm pretty sure that somewhere James Cameron was either quoted or alluded to, if it were not for Ripley, he would not have made Sarah Connor the way that he did.
I thought you were going to say Titanic.
No. No. Without Ripley, there would have been no Sarah Connor. And without
I
Sarah
do recall reading that or seeing that as well.
Yeah.
I really want to see facehuggers in Titanic. That would be fantastic.
maybe
they're down in steerage with the Irish.
maybe that's the pyramid that they were talking about.
That's Stargate.
Okay. Super. Speaking on this, whose opinion of Sigourney Weaver led to her being offered the role of Ripley?
Just tell me, was it like a director kind of person?
It
or
was a group of
a
people.
group? Oh, that's even more confusing. Was it the Screen Actors Guild?
No.
I don't know.
Was it a focus group at a mall somewhere?
No. It was the women It was the women in the Fox offices. So after her screen test,
interesting.
Ladd gathered all the women that he could find in the studio office to have them view her performance. They liked Weaver so much that 2 days later she had the part. So they literally, because it was a strong female role,
Nice.
they pulled every female that they could find that worked in the offices and said, "What do you think of this?" You know,
Mhm.
and that's how she got the part.
And she continues to be a badass till this day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To Aaron, Ash, the ship's science officer, cobbled together a tracking device to help locate the mature alien. What did it key off of?
It's heat signature, right?
No, that was Aliens
Predator.
3, I think it was heat signatures.
Oh, it was Predator.
Right, which is weird because they're on like a lava prison planet.
Yeah, and then it was motion in 2. In this one, it was micro changes in air density.
Air density?
Okay, so that's sound.
Well, that's how everyone tracks people nowadays. Come on.
Icy Zorro, prior to filming, the cast was escorted to Geiger's studio to get their first glimpse of the title character. What were they handed before being permitted to view the alien?
2 empty halves of coconuts, like when you went to see Mike. Right. With Aaron's answer, like airplane vomit bags.
No, they were handed a drink. Geiger's assistant had readied a glass of brandy for each of the actors. Not feeling the need for fortification, Weaver, Sigourney, refused the offer, only to come racing out moments later to grab the bottle.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I mean, seeing that thing in person live for the first time must have been terrifying. Like, wow, that is a scary looking thing.
Liquid courage, people.
On to Masonic Vader.
I like Jack's answer, an NDA.
So we could have had an easy one, but I wanted to have some fun with this. So, Masonic Vader, after Dallas was killed by the alien, the remaining crew decided to attempt to escape in the Nostromo shuttle. What necessary item did Ripley send Parker and Lambert to scrounge for?
A flux capacitor.
The Flurkin.
It was the Flurkin. It was the cat. They needed Jonesy.
The funniest thing about this is Max from Turbo Comics, when he watches and listens to this, will absolutely be screaming at us.
Wait. I remember. Hold on a sec. It was a pager to summon Captain Marvel.
No. It was extra coolant for the shuttle. It was the cylinders.
Man, I haven't seen Aliens in probably God knows how long, man.
Alien. Not
Yeah.
Alien.
Whatever.
Different movie.
Shut your mouth.
Game over, man. Game over.
Super.
I'm sorry if you were saving that line for the end.
Biggest
of the game.
fail in trivia history. This is hilarious. Super. What convinced Fox Studios to double the budget for Alien from $4.2 million to $8.4 million?
What convinced them? I would say like polling numbers or something. Interest in the movie.
I want to say the signing of John Hurt.
Sigourney Weaver.
Or maybe they got a big budget name attached to the film.
Sigourney
Yeah, like
Weaver.
Tom Skerritt.
That would have been John Hurt.
Yeah, no, it wasn't that. What it was, so it was a series of 2x3 thumbnails drawn by Ridley Scott So Dan O'Bannon's scripts they liked, but they weren't impressive enough for them to be like, yeah, we'll shell out this amount of money. So when they brought like the thumbnail design,
Images.
how they were going, like how Ridley was going to direct it and shoot it, and that's
Does
where
that count as a big budget name getting attached?
I'll give you a point on that because that is a big
Yeah.
Can we stop and admire that for a second? The budget was $4 million and it got doubled to $8 million.
because of
Yeah.
his
No,
thumbnails.
I'm just talking about
Yeah.
the
Make a
budget.
movie for $8 million now.
Back in 1979.
Yeah, exactly. Like what they were saying. Let's just use Endgame as an example. I think they said their budget was $400 million or something.
Yeah, but
So-
that's guaranteed to bring in like $3 billion.
I get it, but come on, $4 million.
Okay, so-
Look at the difference. Yeah.
Adjusted for inflation, that's probably like $40 million, maybe.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
but even
but
then,
still.
That's significant.
it almost wouldn't be
Significant.
enough to pay one big name actor.
Right.
And that movie did not look like a $4 million or an $8 million movie. That looked like it had some money behind it. $8 million
It
sounds
looked
like
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, when you've got Geiger working
on
on
that, what it took behind it and stuff. Aaron, how long did shooting of Alien take?
it was only like 8 months or something like that, wasn't it?
It would
I
have been
think it was shorter. It was only like 3 weeks.
4 months.
6 months.
4 months.
It was 4 months? I thought it was 6 months.
4 months.
Maybe I'm thinking Aliens.
Quick and
4
dirty.
months.
6 months makes sense for Aliens, but yeah.
I'm thinking Aliens. These
Well,
too many
too bad they added that S at the end. Super's trying to go for the win here. Damn it.
Icy Zorl, in the theatrical edition of Alien, who was the only member of the crew who did not die on screen, but whose death was only inferred?
Dean Stanton?
No.
No, he died.
Because he does, yeah, when he's looking for the cat.
Lifted up by the
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
the other woman.
No,
What was her
Was it
name?
her?
it was Dallas.
It was Dallas.
Oh,
I was
Tom Skerritt?
Yeah, because you only see it just goes quiet, and you just think that he died, and you see his earpiece when they go in looking for him, and that's all that's left.
So you don't find the body. Okay.
But what ends up happening is in the cut later, and in the novel as well of it, he was taken and like the alien was starting to set up like a
That's
like
right.
aliens where he's sitting there, he's like, kill me,
Kill
you know.
me. Yep.
Yeah.
You're gonna see it
Okay,
later.
so Jack in the chat room brought up the actual inflation number here. So $100 in 1979 is equivalent to $339 today. So an $8.4 million budget translates to roughly a $28.3 million movie.
Which is still small by
Yeah,
film
Very.
comparisons nowadays.
I mean,
but to be fair, I mean,
most
it's a
independent movies
small-
don't even do that.
It took Ridley having to play with, like, you know, the alien off screen and having the darkness be what really made you fear what was going on, and you know, so the 8 million was what he needed to get it to the point that they got it to. But if he'd only had the 4 million, I don't know.
I heard
Then it-
some of the
then it would've
alien.
been called Star Beast.
I heard some of the alien sounds or alien scenes that you didn't actually see the alien was like hand stuff, you know, with the light and
Hand
everything. There you go.
Masonic
Shadow puppets, awesome.
Sonic Vader, what trait or physical characteristic had writer Dan O'Bannon considered giving the alien?
Let's see, night vision.
Interesting. No, but it was the ability to imitate its victims. It's like a body snatcher type of thing.
I was picturing Predator where it's like, what the hell are you?
Yeah, and then back then with an $8 million budget, that transformation would have been awesome.
So it would have been people playing their separate roles as the alien.
John Hurt opens his mouth and a tiny John Hurt head pokes out.
I would have paid $8 million just to see that.
Jack says a large set of breasts.
They saved that for the Queen.
Have you seen Galaxy Quest? Sigourney's got those already.
Oh, off topic.
Super. Which character said you'll get whatever's coming to you?
You'll get whatever's coming to you. Kane?
No, it was Ripley.
Ripley. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She said that to Ash, didn't she?
It was when they were discussing the shares that they were going to get from.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I was
And,
going to say Paul Reiser, but that's the next movie.
That was basically her saying, yeah, no overtime.
we got a 3-way tie. I'm going to give you guys one hard question to try and break the tie, and if you don't get it, then whoever yells out the answer first on the second question will get the win. Even as Alien was heading into the theaters, producer Giller and Hill were preparing a sequel. When pondering suggestions for the next film, what idea was dismissed immediately? The character of Ripley was not crucial to a sequel. That only Ridley Scott was uniquely qualified to direct the next installment. That the real star of the show was the creature, and therefore Sigourney Weaver's participation in the sequel was arbitrary. That appearance of Jones the cat in the movie finale gave the audience a peek at how the sequel would be born.
Hey.
Okay,
Yeah.
Anybody else?
C.
And
I think it was A.
A, and what about you, Super?
A.
It was that the appearance of Jones the cat in the movie's finale gave the audience a peek at how the sequel would be born.
Oh, no.
Really?
Who knew?
You get tiny little kitten xenomorphs.
Oh my gosh.
All right, so whoever yells out their name first on this one will give me the answer.
You have to ask. Okay. never mind.
C.
Most of those on board the Nostromo perished aboard her, who eventually made it out alive in hypersleep on the shuttle.
Aaron.
Ken.
Aaron?
Was
Aaron,
Ripley.
go.
And Jonesy.
Yep.
Oop.
So Aaron wins this week.
Yay, very good.
I think we all win because I think it's over.
Yeah, right.
Dreadful. Okay, so with that's why we usually talk about what we're geeking out on, and now we did trivia, and hopefully you had fun with it and enjoyed our pitiful attempt at talking about Alien Day by doing trivia of it. Jack said about the trivia that the audience are the real losers because they actually had to watch the entire trivia. But let's get to what we usually really are here for, the nerd news. First aspect of the nerd news this week. We talked about this last year and had some interesting thoughts on what came out about it, but Merriam-Webster's dictionary released their list of new words and compounds getting into the dictionary because language is always evolving and conversation is evolving and the words that are used are evolving. So they came out with over, I think it was 640 total words that were added. And I'll get a couple of them, but I wanted to get any of your guys' thoughts if you looked at the list of what we saw so far to if there was some surprises of like that's not in there yet, or if there was a why is that in there?
I mean, I have the same complaint that I had last year, which is the compound terms thing. It's multiple words. Like each of those words has its own definition already in the book. We don't need to have definitions for something with a hyphen in it, I think.
I don't know. I think sometimes when you put two different words together, it changes the dynamic between them. So you can put red ball,
Absolutely.
but
Like garbage time.
yeah. So there, I don't know. I prefer to let the linguists do their thing because they know more about it than I do.
That being said, my favorite term that got added is actually a compound term. It's bottle episode. And I freaking love bottle episodes. Yeah. They're usually about halfway through a season of TV where you're like, okay, they needed to save budget somewhere. So this entire episode is going to take place in like one room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's always really obvious which one it is. You know, like, can you think of your TV show that you like where you have a favorite bottle episode?
Community, yeah. Because it's self-referential as well. Abed even talks about how like they're staying in the library the whole time. He's like, if this was a TV show, this would be a bottle episode. You
know what GIF they used, Merriam-Webster actually used for their talking about the bottle episode on their Twitter account?
Which one?
It was the kill the fly episode of Breaking Bad. the entire episode of him trying to kill the fly. So,
I'm kind of perplexed that tailwind and headwind have been put in there. I don't get that. I mean, that's associated with flying for the most part. And I don't know. We've been flying since the early 1900s.
Been there before, but that's what they did as well. Is they added additional meanings to what they've become. So tailwind and headwind have referred to a force or influence that either helps or hinders progress now, as opposed to just being for flying.
Tailwind and headwind were to either make the plane go faster with tail, or headwind make it slower.
So they still mean that, but they have multiple actual definitions now.
I think so.
Couldn't they just have said like, headwind? See also resistance. Like
to quote Deadpool.
This is a dictionary, not a thesaurus.
To quote Deadpool, lazy writing.
WTF writers.
The other one that they did as well is peak, which mountain peak, but now it means like peak of popularity.
That's a good addition.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I thought that was cool that they added one, Stan, which sounds weird because it sounds like a guy's name, but it takes from the old, you remember that Eminem song Stan about the creepy, obsessed stalker fan?
Yeah.
That's what it means now in television lexicon. So when you hear someone say like, I stan this character or I stan that guy, it means like I'm like, that is my
obsessed
number
to the
one.
point of danger.
I'm obsessed to the point of maybe being a little bit crazy and delusional. But yeah, so it's
I didn't see
a flattering term.
I didn't see that definition. I was hoping it was referencing Stan Lee, but oh well.
No, actually, so here's the funny thing. Everybody, myself included, thought that Stan came from the song Stan by Eminem, and that's where that phrasing came from. The actual first enunciation of that was from a Nas song in one of his lines, and then Eminem used that coined phrase to create the song Stan, and then so on and so forth until it became where it is now.
They did add snowflake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's in common enough usage. I get that.
yeah. I really liked the giving Goldilocks the term for
Absolutely. That's a word that I use on a daily basis at work. I describe something as being not too much this way and not too much that way. I would say it's kind of Goldilocks in between the two.
But their reasoning for doing it is because astronomers using it as an area of planetary orbit in which temperatures are neither too hot nor too cold. That was
the Goldilocks zone.
Scientific aspect of it. That's why they put it in there to try and put fuel to the fire. Jack Malice says that Super Hoovian Nut stands Buck Lemmings, and then he decided to stand behind me after that.
Agreed.
So he wouldn't get
I
hurt.
stand them as well.
I
mean, you're fiercely devoted to them, man.
No, if it's in a creepy way. If it's in a creepy, like harmful way.
No, that's not what it means. It stands.
No.
Never mind that.
Really devoted to that.
Yeah, I am devoted to the people against Buck Lemmings. I stand them.
And then you got your compound terms that you hate it. You hate IC, but page view, an instance of a user viewing an individual page on a website.
Yeah,
but like we already have the definition of page and the definition of view. We know what those things are.
But we also have the definition of garbage and we have the definition of time, and they do not mean the same thing.
Now, when you put them together, they don't mean the same thing. That's true.
Yeah,
they do essentially. It's time that is garbage. I mean, it's referencing specifically a sports scenario.
Sentence. That's not a compound term.
But I do agree. I like bottle episode. I like.
I like that we got Go Cup.
Go Cup, yeah.
I honestly thought that had been in there already. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, the one that I was surprised that hadn't been in there this whole time was EGOT.
I'm actually surprised EGOT is in there because EGOT is an acronym. It's not a word.
Well,
it's not even an acronym.
But now they've turned it into a word, so that's kind of cool. So
no, it was an acronym before, but that it got turned into a word because now we've got 6 EGOTs.
So wait, there's 6 of them. So there's the time, the power.
Does Eminem have one? Because if not, that's my vote for who gets the next EGOT.
He could have one. I think he's missing a Tony. He's got the Emmy.
Yeah.
No, I don't think he has an Emmy either. He has a Grammy and he's got an Oscar.
Jack makes a really good point, and I haven't looked at an actual physical dictionary in forever. It's only been like online looking up on Google or something, but it says compounds are for people that don't like to look up multiple words. It is so hard to actually look up more than one word. An acronym should not be in the dictionary.
That's fair. Like, you know, the last time I picked up an actual physical dictionary, that's all the words. It's Bible thin, you know, pages where you have to like, where is it?
Yeah.
So it was made like in 1875. Ye old.
Ye old.
So
with the gold rimmed pages.
Yeah, so they're going to still have the old words in there as well, but that's Merriam's explanation to this. Like people that are saying that like this word is not going to get used later, or it's just a trendy word right now, or something like it's a buzzy word, which is buzzy got added this year as well. So,
I'm more amazed at the fact that we're still talking about Merriam-Webster, though. That's the thing. I mean, at this point, dictionaries are kind of like a thing of the past. Everything's online. Everything's Googled. Why don't they put that as a word?
It is a word.
Yeah, I think that's good.
I'm pretty sure it's been in the dictionary for like 5 years or 6 years now.
Google did become a word in the dictionary, a while ago. Yeah.
Well, I don't know because I haven't seen a dictionary.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Jack was saying he was calling him out. He was being sarcastic. He was just calling him out for being lazy, for not looking up the multiple words. But their explanation to like all these words that end up making it in each year is it's to show how language is growing, to take a stock of what it's doing and evolving and changing, and you know, it's so that the younger generation can see what the heck the older generation are talking about, and vice versa, I guess, at this point.
Well, yeah, it only makes sense because even just over the past 60 years, the way that they talked in the 1950s is completely different. I mean, you'd need a translator to go back to that point and have a conversation.
Yeah,
it only gets worse the further back you go. So,
that's ignoring the whole transatlantic accent when people are like, you know how we talk like this now.
Right.
Well, they were, compared to how we speak now, they were very almost like prim and proper. I don't want to say that they were like Shakespearean, but this generation is all about condensing words. It drives me insane. Like, I know everyone does it with the couples like Brangelina and whatever, but it's like, it drives me nuts. I cannot combine people like that.
It's social media, though. It's because of Twitter. It's because of where they're like, this is only how many characters you get, so make it work.
And I completely understand it, but that doesn't necessarily mean I love it.
No, here's
a major problem.
Here's a real life scenario I could throw out there. I was having a conversation with my kid about this. We were last couple of days kind of watching some of the old the other Avenger movies and stuff, and there was an Age of Ultron where Tony Stark says shit and then Captain America says language, and they make that whole thing about it. And he's like, damn, why is he so concerned about him saying the S word? And so, well, that guy came from a time where saying bad words like that wasn't proper etiquette. They spoke with better English and everything like that. So with proper English. So it's amazing how much 60 years has taken the language. Just imagine how far back it's gone from there and stuff. So
yep.
Yeah, that's a true to life example of where life and education is now.
Couple thoughts in the chat room. Language is not growing; it is getting dumber. Polyfuse says slang is what killed proper English, and Jack responded that the problem is we let people use slang in formal conversation, which is very true. So it just means that the film of idiocracy becomes more and more real every day. It's sad.
I saw it again a couple of months ago, and it is on point. It is absolutely what's happening right now.
Yeah, it's scary.
I agree with Jack in principle. I think that it's good that language is evolving, but yeah, like, I mean, there's definitely times where it's like when on fleek was put in the dictionary, I was like, really? Come on. On fleek?
Really? Are we really going to be using that in 5 years?
No, we're not even using it now.
And that's what I brought up. I was discussing this earlier about the word stand, and it was like, yeah, but we're not going to use that in 5 years. But it's like, but if you go back and you think about the origins back to when Nas used it and Eminem created the song, that's over 15 years old now. So I mean,
to be fair, those guys are both geniuses.
Yeah. So
it's also necessary for future references because people are going to be looking back and they're going to be studying, believe it or not, Twitter and to get a grip on current events, to get a grip on.
30 years from now, somebody's going to get a master's degree in Twitter history.
Something. Seriously.
Wow.
It's going to happen.
Twitter archaeology?
Social media historian?
Social media studies is going to be a thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Regardless of,
But it'll be a tie-in to like anthropology or something like that, you know?
well, yeah, because modern anthropology is going to have to do a lot with not necessarily the bones and the remains of the civilizations, but the parts that we're leaving behind, and most of that is going to be left behind online. So they're going to need 30 years from now to know what the hell on fleek meant, so that they know what the hell some freaking social media starlet was saying at that point.
Yeah. Well, and Jack is saying in the chat, he says, for proper and clear communication, we have to actually agree on the meanings of words. And I totally agree with that. And that's kind of why they're putting them in there, I guess. It just seems like, maybe put in less faddish stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let us know if you're watching this on YouTube. Drop a comment. Let us know what your thoughts are on that. If you are checking this out on our home site, make sure you click on the Amazon link while you're there, because this entire network is brought to you by malice-corp.com. Here's the plug that I didn't give at the beginning of the show. So, head over to malice-corp.com while you're there. If you're purchasing anything from Amazon, make sure to click on the Amazon link from the website. It helps us out. It helps you out. If you guys want to support the channel here, if you're watching live on Twitch, all you got to do is hit the subscribe button up at the top. If you have Amazon Prime, that means you have Twitch Prime, which means you get a free subscription to give to a channel every 30 days. Doesn't cost you anything, but you help us keep on trucking. And then share us with all your friends and family and let them know to come join the cast live. Moving on to the next couple things. The next thing was Bond 25. So James Bond 25, we got details about it.
All right.
And they still won't give it a title, but they let us know that Rami Malek will be the villain.
Yes, that is the one thing where I was like, okay, sweet, this is going to be awesome. Rami Malek is awesome.
He is so awesome.
And Daniel Craig is coming back as James Bond. Do we think, is it time to change to a new Bond, or do we still like what we're...
I know, Idris Elba's getting a little old now.
I thought they did change Bond. I thought they did get rid of Daniel Craig. They were looking to try to get Idris Elba or something like that.
They weren't getting. It was that Daniel Craig was kind of saying like he didn't want to do it anymore. It was the way he was making it sound. And
I thought he said the last one was going to be his last.
He said he basically at one point I think he said that he wouldn't come back over his dead body, and then I guess they backed up the Brinks truck, and he's like, yeah, sure, cool.
Yeah,
I got a dead body full of cash.
His exact quote was, "I would rather slash my wrists than do another Bond movie."
Yeah.
So
we'll check for scars in the upcoming Bond movie.
That was before Spectre, and I think possibly even before Skyfall. So I don't know what they told him.
Maybe that's foreshadowing. It's foreshadowing for his character. That's how they start off the new Bond. First 5 minutes, done.
The reason he said that is he accidentally caught Quantum of Solace on TV one day.
It's amazing though, because if you think about it, they don't need a title though. But just think about this for a second. Bond 25. I mean, there's been 25 Bond films.
Well, there will be once it's come.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying. I mean, that's crazy. We're talking about like, well, Star Wars has 9 episodes, or this has this. They have 25.
MCU has 21, 22. MCU has 20.
Paulie in the chat says he's the best Bond. Bearded Master says it's definitely his last one. So
I actually agree with that. I do think Daniel Craig is the best Bond.
He is.
It's a different version of Bond, though. Now I think of the current iterations from 90s on, absolutely, but I still can't put him over Sean Connery.
You get Pierce Brosnan's Bond was the 60s Batman version. Daniel Craig's Bond is the Batman Begins version.
Exactly.
Every Bond from Pierce Bronson down was 60s Bond, because that's how I was about to say the Daniel Craig version is the Batman Begins version. It's the grittiest, the realistic. It's not James getting out of every movie not getting hurt or anything like that. It's literally this dude's getting knocked up, like beat up, and he's barely surviving every time.
This is probably a weird reference because the reference that I'm making was designed to ape Bond movies, but the Sean Connery version is the Austin Powers version.
Very much so.
Austin Powers was made to make fun of Sean Connery.
That's what I'm saying.
Come on, man.
Yeah, I did I not preface my statement?
I know, but that's I get but that's what I mean. Is that's why I can't like I said, of the more current iterations, I would absolutely 100% agree Daniel Craig is the best Bond, but I just can't put him over Sean Connery because they are two different. They are completely different in terms of the realistic versus the non-realistic.
Sean Connery's best moment in the entire Bond series is when what's her name asks him for something to put on because she's naked, and he hands her shoes.
So, a couple of the details about the story of the film: he's enjoying himself in Jamaica, and who added the.
I'm never doing another Bond movie. Okay, first of all, bring in the piles of money. Also, we're going to shoot in Jamaica. How do you feel now?
But Bond's peace is short-lived when his old friend Felix Leader from CIA turns up asking for help. The mission to rescue a kidnapped scientist turns out to be far more treacherous than expected, leading Bond onto the trail of a mysterious villain armed with a dangerous new technology. So, would you want to see Rami Malek be, because this was a reboot when Daniel Craig came in, would you like Rami Malek to be a brand new, complete new villain?
Character? Yes.
Or
absolutely
a new iteration of an old villain?
No, right for Rami Malek.
Yeah, I want him to not only be a new villain, I want it to take multiple movies.
I think the cool thing about the new Bond movies with Daniel Craig are the bad guys. All the bad guys are originals. I mean, even taking the Casino Royale, it was a remake of the movie, but the villain itself was different, and that's what I think is real, especially the last movie. Man, freaking, that was probably my favorite villain out of all of them. He was just a sick, sadistic.
Javier Bardem. Yeah,
with the guy with the jaw.
Yeah.
That was awesome, and that was a complete like wow, what the hell? So I'm very interested in him. Go for it.
Especially since around the Brosnan Bonds, it's almost seems like the villains are more key than the actual who plays Bond. Like the villains have been spectacular for years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're falling prey almost to the Batman effect, because you have the Batman and you have a set character that is pretty much static in his ability to grow throughout the entire movie. But those villains are the ones that bring they're the ones that drive the plot forward. They're the ones that are making the movies worth watching. So it's definitely on my vote to have him be something new. And yeah, it like you said, I would love to see it take multiple movies, because I would have loved to see what's his name, Javier Bardem, come back again for one more. It would have been brilliant to see more interaction between him, especially after he caused the death of M.
That was such a complex character. It was great.
Oh, spoiler alert.
Yeah, well, which Judi Dench? No. I think it would be hilarious if Rami Malek's character is the same guy from Mr. Robot, and he's just actually risen to prominence and taken over Evil Corp.
And start singing "We Will Rock You."
Yeah, he gets weird tooth implants.
He's just got that look to him that he embodies a Bond villain just because.
It's the bug eyes.
It is.
Those eyes.
Well, and it's the way he talks too. That very precise, very slow and methodical. He's just got villain written all over him when he wants to. You know.
Well, I mean, he's got a creeper written all over him at times too. There's a game. I can't remember the name of the game. I have to look it up. It's a PlayStation game, and he's one of the characters in the game. And the game was actual motion capture that it did, so it's actually him in the game, and he plays like this creeper, kind of like he's bringing all the friends up from high school for a trip to the cabin in the woods, and everybody's like, what the heck is going on? We're trapped here. And he's the one that's the really odd, just weird character amongst everybody.
Yeah.
Friday the 13th, right? Crystal Lake. Yeah.
No, it's an actual video game. It's got the cheerleader from Heroes is the
Until
main.
Dawn.
So it's a great game. I enjoyed it a lot.
It was fantastic.
Kyle the Deceiver jumping in with that one. Thank you, sir.
Oh, hey,
Yeah,
guys.
that's a nice pull, dude.
Yes, Until Dawn. And I never played the pseudo sequel or whatever because it was a VR and I didn't have the VR headset. So I do have it downloaded. I just don't have the VR headset yet. So I do want to check it out.
Coming close to sunset.
Now, the nice thing about Rami Malek and everything I've seen him in, which is, to be honest, 2 credits, Mr. Robot and Bohemian Rhapsody, the dude's just very intense. Like, he doesn't do anything lightly ever when he's acting.
Very method.
Yeah. So on to the next major story that we were going to talk about. Clockwork Orange, which was a book first, and then you had the movie. Apparently, there was a plan put in place where the author was given the opportunity from the publisher that if he wrote a short follow-up novel that used the word clockwork in it, that they would make him a very rich man because of the popularity. So apparently he started writing. And
dude, I'll write a Clockwork short story for that much money. Yeah.
It went from a small story to 200 pages. And then it became like a full-on novel. It was called The Clockwork Condition, but it never came out. It was always rumored about the project. But they actually found the project in his stuff.
This is my favorite part of the story. The reason it was never published is he lost it in his paperwork around his office. It's just buried under a bunch of other papers.
But yeah, it was found in a snowdrift of the late novelist materials of stacks of papers and about 1,000 hours of recording at the Burgess Foundation in Manchester.
Recording on what? Was he doing cassette tapes?
That's what I gotta assume. Yeah.
8 millimeter.
He was pressing his own vinyl.
They said I was delighted because I come across a reference to the Clockwork Condition, and they were like, "Where's the book?" And he said, "Oh God, that will never be published. That doesn't really exist." And then they come across this thing, and they're just like, basically, what happened was he had a full manuscript put together, and they said it's really good. It's not so much a sequel as it is more of a commentary, a nonfiction commentary on many of the issues that were raised during Clockwork Orange. So it's kind of like following the outside in of the story. He was going to write a book about the condition of modern man. It would be structured around Dante's Inferno, which was one of his favorite poems. And insofar as the book had a theme, it was, as they said in the proposal, the need for a man to break out of the hell of existence and come to grips with his own deepest self. But the reason it never saw the light of day was that he got caught up in, like...
Well, I love that the article says, the reason it never saw the light of day is he got distracted.
Yeah, he got distracted by Stanley Kubrick's film. And
Jingly keys. Oh, no.
So...
Squirrel.
We have this massive manuscript now that, I mean, would you, it's not fully put together, but would you like to see somebody put it together and,
absolutely
release it?
Yeah, yes and no. Yes and no, only because of the fact that that's unique writing. You have to find the right type of writer.
Especially Clockwork Orange. It was a very unique story.
Yeah.
It's a cultural touchstone.
Yeah, and that's the problem you run into. It's like the first novel was so complete and everything that was awesome that if they found, let's just say 75% of it, and they have to fill in the last 25, that's difficult because you have to find that right frame of mind writer to be able to think the same way and kind of fill it all done. I mean, it's kind of like how they're doing with Michael Crichton stuff. Michael Crichton, he wrote a bunch of books and then he didn't finish some, and so they're trying to find him and do it just doesn't have the same effect, So being something like that type of novel that's been so influential and read that I don't know if I would want anyone to touch it. If they do like put it out there, I just want them to put what they did, and then that was it. Let them do give it like a blank 20 pages at the end and say, hey, put your ending to it or do it whatever, but leave it the way it is, because I think anyone messing with it is just going to screw it up.
Well, Jack Malice says when Douglas
just get
Adams,
Brandon Sanderson to finish it.
yeah, well, Jack says when Douglas Adams died, they found 4 unfinished books on his Apple, and Kyle the Seamer says big shoes to fill. Which, yeah, that's the hard part. It's big shoes to fill, very big shoes.
I love that Jack was making the same reference I was right then. Brandon Sanderson.
And
Brandon Sanderson did amazing.
Yeah,
well, I'm curious. The novels that were found on Adam's computer, have these been released, or is
I don't think they were.
I would have read, or
no, I don't think they were released.
This is one of my favorite writers of all time. I love that sense of humor.
Yeah,
I doubt they would have done it. I doubt they would have released those.
but that's the difference that Jack is bringing up, is that when you're bringing up Brandon Sanderson, but Jack handpicked, or not Jack,
Robert Jordan.
Jack's comment in the chat room. Robert Jordan handpicked the person to do this.
That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, this won't be a handpicking if you have somebody coming, but it seems like 90% of it's there. It's just not the ending. But because of the type of thinking process that the writer of Clockwork Orange had, you just don't know if you wrote an ending, if you'd actually do it the service of what, you know.
Is Hunter S. Thompson still alive? Because if so, that's probably the only guy that can finish it properly.
See, so here's the cool thing to think about. I think this is a good way to finish the cast in a sense, if you think about it, because when we go into talking about Merriam Webster, and then we talk about how the language and how the words have changed and everything over the years. Do you really think of any current writers right now that actually get to that level or degree of what is in Clockwork Orange? I mean, unfortunately, the sad thing about how life is nowadays is everything's, and thank goodness it's on digital, because we would not be doing this cast right now, but everything's gone more digital. Everything's gone more visual. The art of writing has lost its way a little bit. Now, I'm not saying there's not good writers out there, and there are good books. However, the difference of writing from...
Jack says Brandon is a writer of that level.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's not many of them.
Doesn't do the same. This is
Jim Butcher.
This is fantasy. This is a completely different type of story.
Yeah. I'm just
go ahead.
I was about to say. I'm just saying it's just, unfortunately, writing from the 80s and forward has significantly dropped compared to the 70s and before, when life was different, when things weren't so taken over by television, movies, and stuff like that.
Well,
you're making the music. Sorry, go ahead, Super.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say, it's so much easier nowadays for people to get a story published. You don't have to send out your manuscript to 30 different and pray that someone picks it up. You can upload a story to an ebook and sell it, you know. So you have to, in order to find the good writers, you kind of have to wade through some crap to get there. But when you do find those good writers, it's really worth it.
Yeah, and what I was going to say, Masonic, the argument you're making right there is the same as the music in the 60s and 70s was amazing, and we're just putting out crap today. No, they put out just as much crap then. It's just that the stuff that has lasted, the stuff that we know about, rose to the top, and everybody forgot the rest of the dreck. So yeah, there's still amazing stuff being written right now. It's just we're in the middle of it. We're in a sea of possible content, so we don't.
Well, the other thing you think about too. The other thing you think about though too, and this is where I was kind of getting to is that people back then wrote because they wrote for stories and wrote for imagination, to tell something, that to draw you into something. It seems like a lot of times now things are written for the possibility of it being turned into a movie or a television show or something. I mean, that's
just Twilight.
or Harry Potter or anything else like that.
Or 50 Shades of Grey.
You see my point? I mean, that's kind of like when you start thinking about books, like you name off some really good books now that haven't been converted or
the entire Dresden series, also the Codex Alera series, both Jim Butcher. The In Death series hasn't turned into anything, and that's kind of pulpy, but it's still wonderful. There's a ton of really good stuff out there. It's just the ones that come to your attention have that bias already. So it's sort of a self-selecting idea. The stuff that gets to your attention is probably because you saw the other media that spawned off of it. Doesn't mean that there's not a ton of great stuff out there, in my opinion.
Well, okay, let's talk about this writing. I'm going to read off an excerpt that they had in this article that I found, and just to give you a kind of idea of Anthony Burgess's writing. This is from one of the manuscripts. So, goodness is a matter of common sense, something required by the community, but truth and beauty remains values. Totally useless, and the only totally human things we're capable of pursuing. This is the great age of communications, but what the hell are we trying to communicate about? Certainly not reality. The pleasure and diversions of the flesh are delightful, and if God had anything to do with them, I'd thank God for them. The organizations of societies is fascinating. Sport is thrilling, but none of these has anything to do with the reality. I mean, but that's the thing is, if you think about it, the type of writing that's here, it was way different than anything else.
You have to be in the right mindset for that kind of thing. You have to be maybe on mushrooms.
But I mean, anytime, because of the Stanley Kubrick film, anytime I read Clockwork Orange, or anytime I look at like even this little skit, all I now do is I read it in Malcolm McDowell's voice as that character. is how I see it in my head. And I don't know. I don't know if anybody else.
The old ultra-violence.
Well, I'm going to hit this one more time on the head, though. I think the imagination for writers is not as strong as it was. Multimedia and everything has really kind of deadened imagination. Everything's almost when people were writing back then, it was more to life and more to, like for example, Tolkien. I mean, they're going to be coming out with a movie about this. Lord of the Rings and everything, sort of based off of his experiences through war and stuff like that. We don't have that nowadays. We really don't. We have
so much of that nowadays. There's so much that is based on people's lives and based on the human condition now. I feel like you're just not reading a lot, because there's amazing stuff out there, man.
Kyle, there's not a lot of original ideas out there, but that's once again what you were saying, I see, where a lot of the dreck is what gets caught, but a lot of original ideas don't get the backing that they should.
Yeah. Well, and the way that I will agree with Masonic here is that I feel like it's no longer the cream that rises to the top; it's the garbage that can be easily monetized.
Yeah,
that's kind of like what I'm getting to and stuff. I mean, it's like I said, writing now is not as strong as it was before mass media took over. You can find so many wonderful books and everything. I know there's a lot of books out there,
but I think it's so muddied because there's so much easy access to do it any way that you want through social media and stuff, of just putting out stories out there. Look at us doing the podcast. We can just get this out, and it's on multiple different venues to listen to it and watch it from. Something we wouldn't be able to do back then. But does that mean that every podcast that's out there is a good podcast? No, that's why there's so many of them out there. So that's what I think is the problem, is that, there's just so much accessibility that it's muddied down the amount of what's great versus, like, you had to be the best of the best to get published back in those times, because publishers weren't taking anything that was just like anybody off the street writing whatever they wanted.
Yeah. Well, and I think muddied is the perfect term. It's like taking a small pond, stirring up all the dirt and all the crap that's floating around. There's still some bits of gold at the bottom there.
Yeah, that's what Jack says. It's not rewriting that is a flawed audience, and that's just there's so much stuff out there. But these are subjects that I think we could go on for days about, and unfortunately, we've gone on for quite a while.
What we should do here is recommend some lesser known stuff for people to read. Because I got a long list of, they're not necessarily series. It could be a one-off. I mean, I used to review some books for first-time authors. I was part of a book club, and they would send us the ebooks, and I would read them, and then I would post reviews for them. And I read some fascinating books. I read some not so fascinating books as well. There was one about humans and dinosaurs, and I was just like, I never, ever want to read any. I think my eyeballs were burned by the end of that book. But I read some beautiful stories to Masonic's point about, we don't get these things about war. I read a book called A Cape May Diamond about a Vietnam vet coming back to the Jersey Shore and his experience coming back from the war and how he had to readjust to society, and how these things, what they call the Cape May Diamonds, are basically glass that gets washed up on the beach repeatedly until they get shined to almost look like a diamond. And it was a beautiful story, but you don't hear about that because it doesn't have this big national following. So
yeah. Jack Malice recommends Neil Stephenson, Snow Crash.
Stevenson is amazing. Snow Crash was written in like 92 and pre-envisioned a lot of current stuff, mostly including online culture. Like, that book is where we actually get the term avatar for somebody's representation online.
Awesome. Yeah, so that's gonna be our cast this week. So this is what we can use your hashtags of the week for, is like an artist to read or a book that everybody needs to read, and hashtag us back with that if you went and read it or checked it out or something.
Well, then I'm going to suggest the hashtag that I've used a couple of weeks previously, which is hashtag read this book.
I will stand by this book that I actually recommended it to Misha Collins at the Vegas Con. That's how much I stand by the book, The Lock Artist. And I don't know if he'll ever read it, but we chatted about it as I was getting an autograph. So that, if I'm willing to recommend it to him, I stand by that book. I'm not going to recommend garbage.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining us on tonight's cast. Thank you for listening, watching, however you're viewing or listening to this. Please make sure you're subscribing when you're there so that you can be notified when new stuff comes out, and that you're clicking on notifications to actually be notified of that stuff. But let's talk about where you can follow everybody so you can discuss books with everybody of what books they should be reading or what good writers there are that are still out there. We'll start first with Super. Where can people follow you outside of this cast?
Follow me on Twitter at SuperHoovianNut, and then follow me on Instagram at SuperHoovianFreak. And then my hashtag will be a little bit like that. It's just going to be what you reading. Hashtag what you reading.
Hashtag what you reading. Masonic Vader, where can people follow you?
You can follow me at Masonic Vader, Masonic Vader 71 on PlayStation Network. I'll think of a hashtag.
Before we're done with the cast.
I had one, but I'm just gonna think of something else now.
Connect the dots.
It was going to be a hashtag there's no good writing today, Jack.
Hashtag it's all bad writing. Icy, where can people follow you outside of this cast?
At Icy Zorro on Twitter, Instagram, PlayStation Network. If you play Warcraft Silverhand server, I'm on the Alliance side, and my character's name's Skag, SCAG.
Yes.
Where can people follow you, Aaron?
I'm on Twitter at DOS Newport Kid and DOS Newport Kid on Instagram as well. And my hashtag Gravity's Rainbow. If you haven't read that book, it's an older book, but it'll make you twice as smart as you were before you read it. It's amazing.
If you want to follow this podcast, you can follow us on Twitter at All Nerd Podcast. You can also look us up on Discord at Malice Corp. We have a server for that. And you can come hang out with us on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/All Things Nerd Podcast, where we're posting memes and GIFs and different fun things to have to do with different stuff over there. So come join us over there in the group and post any type of fun things that you want to talk about throughout the week. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter at Mest_Malice Corp or on Instagram at Mest5150. And thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. What sucks is all I read lately now, I've gotten stuck into comic books. That's the problem. So I don't have a book to give. The book that I will always give that got me turned on to a writer, and a lot of people don't like the writer, but I did, especially back in the 90s, was Watchers by Dean Koontz. Fantastic horror style book that really was given injustice by a really bad, corny film with one of the Coreys. So, but you should read the book.
It's true. He's got a new series. He's got a new 4-book series out that's based around a character named Jane Hawk. It's fantastic.
Oh, nice.
Definitely worth reading.
So yeah, if you want to tag me, if you've read that book, hashtag me messed up watcher, and spell it MEST. Yeah, that's it. That's all the cast for today. Thank you guys for joining us. Keep nerding on. Do you have a hashtag?
Yeah, I'll keep it simple, man. Hashtag endgame reaction. That's it.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your responses.
Oh, and
So many empty
sorry,
tacos.
forgot. Next week, 100 episodes. We hit 100 episodes. 100 episodes of doing this. 3 years. We hit 100 episodes. So next week we want to have a big shindig for that, which means that's when we're going to go full on spoilers with Avengers Endgame.
Yes. Deep dive.
Part of Malice Corp will be able to join in to come and talk, and we're just going to talk about Avengers Endgame. We're going to talk about the whole impact of Marvel over the last 10 years on ourselves, the different experiences that we came across, and we will be bringing another new nerd fight to you for the best MCU character. So
It's going to be a 4-hour podcast. Let's do this.
yeah. 100 episodes means show feet. You do not want to see my feet, Rurutu. Believe me, everybody. Jack Malice will tell you that. Thank you guys for joining us. You keep nerding on. We will see you next Friday.